Hi everyone, this is my presentation on the assessment that I did with my students. The assessment tool that I used was Plickers because I thought that my students would be able to understand how to use them. I thought that they were pretty user friendly. I teach elementary school, so I needed something where it could be very user friendly and they could cognitively understand how to use it properly, and I thought that Plickers was one of those options for me. The grade level national outcome that I chose was recognized as the type of throw, volley, or striking action, specifically volley and striking for me, needed for different games and sports situations. And the reason that I chose this was because my students have been working on this unit, the striking unit, for about 2 weeks now, and we're getting towards the end of it. So I wanted to see if they were still learning the cognitive outcome of the lesson and not just the psychomotor part. The benchmark and objective that I chose. The benchmark that I chose demonstrates emerging forms of simple strategies, tactics, and communication techniques in small-sided games and other physical activities. So I'm focusing specifically on the simple strategies and tactics. And then the objective that I created is students will be able to demonstrate their knowledge of the type of volley/striking action, because those are the two specific ones I'm looking at. Needed to be successful in a volleyball game by answering 2 out of the 3 questions on the assessment correctly. So I'm hoping that they would understand at least 2 of the 3 questions and answer them correctly to show that their knowledge of the volley or striking action. Here's my assessment screenshots and my criteria. So on the left, it's just a screenshot of my computer screen of the assessment. So this is the Plickers website. And then on the right is the criteria. So those are the 3 different questions that I asked. I asked which skill they would use if the ball is coming below their shoulders, which striking action they would use if the ball is coming above their shoulders, and then how many hits on each side do they actually get before they have to send it over. And that does show the correct answers on the criteria part. This is my tutorial of the tool, which can be viewed on YouTube. I explain how I created the tool and how to navigate the website. So you can view this video on YouTube and through the link that I'll have provided. The assessment results are right here. So I put 4 different pictures, 4 different screenshots. 3 of them are of each individual question. So you can see like the top one is of that question and 59% of my students got it correctly. 10 of them got it correct and 7 of them didn't. And then the middle one is another question. The second question, 76% of them got it correct. And then the last one, 82% of them got it correct. And then on the table, you can see each individual question, which students got it correct, which students got it incorrect, what they put. And you can see my class average on the table. So the analysis of the data. I think for the most part, my students did learn which striking pattern they should be using. We had a class average of 73%. And the third question had the most correct answers. The first question was the one that had the least correct answers. I'm hoping that that is because they were just learning how to use this assessment tool. They'd never done it before, and so maybe they were it was more like user errors. But 5 out of my 17 students did not meet the objective of at least 2 correct answers of the 3 questions, and 12 of them did. So that's really good that 12 of them did, but I need to look at those 5 students and see which questions they got incorrect and if there was a pattern. But like I said, I'm really hoping that it was just user error and they just were still getting used to using the assessment tool itself. I think my criteria was pretty good. It's clear that most of my students understood the questions, as 73% class average. Only 8 of the 17 students received 100%, so that shows that there was a little bit of a challenge, which is good. It wasn't too easy. So that's my overall analysis on the data. Here's my likes and dislikes of the assessment tool. Some of the things that I liked is that I liked it that it grades instantly for you. You can see the students' scores right away. It's easily accessible on your phone through the app. It tells you right away which students got it right or wrong. It was pretty easy to make the assessment. It provides lots of different ways to see the score. It shows you a table form. It shows you each individual student. It can show you each individual question. So there's lots of different ways to analyze the data. It's pretty easy to scan the plickers. You have to scan them with your phone as the kids fill them out. So it's pretty easy to do that. And I like that you can use one set of the cards for every class. I think that was pretty helpful because then you're not printing, if you have 10 classes, you're not printing 10 sets of each Plickers card and having to organize all of those students into those cards. You can just have one set of cards and you just pass them out to the students that is identified as that number. Some dislikes that I have, it would take a while to scan an entire class's forms. So I used it with one of my classes where I only have one class come in. I typically have two classes come in. So roughly 35 to 40 students. I think it would take a while to scan all of them. I think both me and my co-teacher would have to do it at the same time to get time efficiency. I really couldn't figure out how to scroll to the next question for my students in the play mode. So the play mode is when you show the questions on the board in front of them. I really struggled to figure out how to scroll to the next question. So I had to just show them the question not in play mode, which can be kind of confusing. So that's one thing that I would have to take more time to figure out. My students have to hold it very precisely to make sure it's correct. So I'm talking about the actual Plickr QR code. They have to hold it really still and correct. So that makes it hard. It also takes a while to explain to the students how to use the Plickers, but hopefully if you do that very well the first time, you won't have to do it every time you do the assessment with them. My students didn't really take it very seriously. They were a little confused on why we were doing it and the reasoning behind it, so I didn't like that. And it was hard to tell when it was in play mode or not. So when I was trying to show it to my students, it was hard to see if it was actually being scanned and it was actually working without showing them the answers. So those are my likes and dislikes. Was the technology an appropriate tool to assess the outcome? I think that this technology was an appropriate tool to assess the outcome that I chose. It was effective, it provided feedback right away, and it allowed my students to identify the type of volley that was needed to be utilized in certain situations. It was appropriate because this tool was very cognitive based, right? It just shows them the question and they have to put up the answer. So because my outcome was cognitive based, it was an appropriate tool to assess that outcome because they had to answer the question. That's the whole assessment format. So yes, I do think that the technology was an appropriate tool to assess the outcome. And that is my PowerPoint. So thank you.